Hey, there we go. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing this morning? Good. Everybody enjoying their long Labor Day weekend so far? Yes, good. I hope everybody has been free of some laboring this weekend. Myself, I've been doing a little bit of laboring. I'm working on this message for this morning, but I haven't been working too hard because it's a holiday weekend, right? Okay, that sounds bad, but I can say this because every night this past week I spent two and a half hours at the library working on this message, so I didn't have to. So while I'm on staff here and I play music and I speak up here occasionally and I do the majority of the graphic design for the church, ministry is not my full-time job. I work a normal 40-hour-a-week job, so that's 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. every Monday through Friday. Then I like to get a workout in the evenings, and then there's spending quality time with my wife and my daughter. So there are a lot of things that take up my time throughout the week, and they wear me out throughout a day and a week. And you know what, darn it, this weekend, I'm going to take some time for rest and relaxation. I deserve into Labor Day. Schmidt from New Girl deserves like 7 Labor Days for what he has to go through at his job. You know what? We all work hard. We all deserve a Labor Day. Did you know that Labor Day began in the late 1800s as a way to honor the American labor movement and the contributions the workers have made to strength, prosperity, laws, and the well-being of our country? Oregon was the first state to make it a public holiday. Totally a hipster thing to do. And the rest of the country followed by making it a federal holiday in 1894. So tomorrow is the 123rd National Labor Day. And so let's see, I'm 36. I got my first job when I was 15 or 16, I think 16, but it was right around there. So this is the 20th or 21st Labor Day that I can claim as my own that I'm celebrating. My first job was selling shoes at a store called Just for Feet. Used to be a nationwide chain. It was all right. I was a good salesman. I was really good at what I did. I could really make you believe that you needed that bottle of foaming shoe cleaner to make and keep those new Nikes spick and span. And hey, you know what? Just because you've been a great customer to work with, I'm not supposed to do this, but you've been great. We've gone along. You're buying some nice shoes. I'm going to get you a special deal on socks, 2 for 1 just today. I'm not supposed to do that, but I can do that for you. They were always 2 for 1. I'm going to let you in on a little secret here this morning, too, about that job, about my very first job. To this day, I technically have never quit that job. Yeah, I know, right? Here we are almost 20 years later, and I never quit that job. School, I was in high school. School was starting back up in the fall. I really didn't know what my availability was going to be. I told that to my boss, and then I never went back. The company went bankrupt about 5 years later, probably because I was no longer hawking socks at such a furious rate. And they closed all locations across the country. So it's not like I'm still on the books somewhere here 20 years later. The company doesn't exist. But having never quit that job to this day is still both a point of pride and kind of shame for me, but mostly pride. It was shame a while ago, but the longer it goes on, I'm like, I never quit my first job. After Just for Feet, I went and worked at a Christian bookstore for about a year or so before I went to college. Then I worked as a sandwich artist, or artiste, as we like to call ourselves, at a Subway all throughout college. That pretty much helped me to never have to pay for a meal throughout my college experience. Erica's nodding. She got a lot of free sandwiches as well. I spent the year after I graduated working as an intern at the campus ministry that I went to in college. And then after that year was over, I got my first real 40-hour-a-week job making signs. I did that for 2 years in Missouri before we moved to Tucson. And then I got a job when we moved here right away at a sign shop and worked there for 8 years. Then I moved to a bigger print shop and ran and built their sign department for 3 years until this past June when I left for a graphic design job. So counting all those up, I've had 8 jobs since I was 16. I honestly don't know if that's a lot or not. I would imagine it's probably pretty average. I don't know. I also didn't really feel like bothering myself to look up the statistics on that. So we're going to say average. I've been fortunate, and I've never disliked any job that I've had. Sure, there are some that I like better than others. There's some where I have fonder memories of the people over the work. There's some that I have fonder memories of the work over the people. But I've never hated anything I've done for a living. That said, it's all just been work, you know. I have to do something to provide for me and my family. I need to buy food, pay my mortgage, and I need to support that nasty vinyl addiction that I have. So I work. I work to put food on the table. I toil through the days and the weeks and the months and the years because I need to. It's a necessity. Work puts a roof over our heads and pays our bills. It's a pretty formulaic and systematic pathway to success in the American dream, isn't it? It's me focused. How can we provide for ourselves? And how often are we just trying to get through the day? Whether you work till 5 o'clock or whatever time your shift goes to, we long for that quitting time so we don't have to be at work anymore. People convince themselves to stay at their jobs because work is work, right? Even if they're unhappy. You can't not have a job, right? For those of you who are still in college, working hard now in class, you're doing that so one day you can work, right? You're working so you can work. That's what all this hard work in class and labs and internships, that's what it's all for, right? That's all it's for? Also, what's the first thing that someone or anyone talks about that they would do if they won the lottery? Someone shout it out. What's the first thing you quit their job? That's literally anytime someone talks about winning a lottery, they say, the first thing I'd do is quit my job. When did we get this mentality about work? Why does our society drive home the message about work that it has to be so miserable? I know I've thought it and felt it, and I doubt I'm the only one in this room who has. But what does God have to say about work? What does God have to say about our work? What is the role of our work in God's economy of things? What if what we do is part of something bigger and better than we could ever have imagined? Over the past couple of weeks, we've been exploring what life with God looks like in exile, when we're out of the safety of the kingdom of God and into this broken world that we live in. Both Tyler and Megan have given us great messages the past couple of weeks and glimpses into the way of engaging the world and loving the world the way Jesus did. And it's hard to be in the world and out of the world. You hear that, but that's hard to do, especially when we're getting constantly hit over the head with the message the world sends out. And it's virtually impossible to be part of this world and not work. What do you think of when you hear the word economy? Does it make you feel all warm and fuzzy? Does it make you happy? Oh yeah, economy. Or does it fill your head with something cold and impersonal, some kind of machine? An unwieldy nest of levers and gears crammed with people just trying to survive. I hedge a bet that 9 times out of 10 we see economics as this big fragmented machine, something that we're all just cogs caught up in. It's a force for utility and efficiency and progress. So then what is the fruit of our labor? Is there any fruit to our labor if we're all just caught up in this cycle? God is the maker of all things, and most importantly, he is our maker. He is our maker, and we are made in his image. So do you know what that means? We are makers too. It's easy to forget or to lose sight of the fact that God has made us to work. We are meant to make something in the world, and we are meant to make something of the world. Our society tells us that makers of our world are the creative people, the builders, the designers, the craftsmen, the artists, the musicians. But we were made by and in the image of the most creative being in the universe. You may have never heard anybody tell you this, but no matter what you do for a living, you are a child of God and you are a maker. And work is a gift from God. The world has lost the plot on work. We've made it bothersome and burdensome. But work helps us discover our callings, and it's through our callings that we create goods and services that benefit people and meet their needs and desires as well. Each of us has been created for a purpose, to fulfill a key role in serving others with God's talents and gifts that he has given us. That's why work has to be more than just about ourselves and our needs and providing for ourselves. We have to think about the wants and needs of others. In Luke 12, Jesus tells us that life is more than food and the body more than clothes. Life and work is bigger than our individual focus. No matter what we do, our work connects us to more people than we might ever imagine. But realistically, what is the true reach of our work? How much of an impact can each of our singular jobs make? Since I spent years in the printing industry, I'm going to draw an analogy for you. Again, paint a picture. It's the easiest analogy for me to make, so hope it makes sense for you. What is the main material for a printing business? Anybody? Any guesses? Paper, right, exactly. Now, we don't have the median printed professionally every week, but pick up your median right now, right? Look at this piece of paper. Have you ever wondered, this piece of paper in your hands, how many hands have gone into making your median? And I'm not even going to include Will printing it over at the fort and me designing it. Even just that, just Damascus Road buying the paper. There are trees, there are paper salesmen, there are stores that the paper was bought at. It's more than just us printing off a piece of paper. Maybe you're a freshman or maybe you're new to U of A, and you come on campus and you want to pick up a campus map to help you find your way around because you don't know where anything is yet. Have you ever wondered how many hands and how many people go in to you holding this one campus map? So the paper starts out as a grove of trees on the land of a farmer. The farmer calls a forester to help clear the trees and sell them off. Farmer gets paid for the trees, and the forester gets a product that he can then help sell off. While both of these people are profiting from their business deal, it's in the exchange that the value is created. It's in the relationship that those two create that we can find such a thing as value. So now the farmer can use the money that he made from selling the trees to plant more trees or other things on his farm. And the forester can take his product and enter into other relationships. He'll sell the wood to a paper mill. He'll use that money to pay for the work of his employees, or he'll buy more equipment to someone who sells it, creating more relationships. Maybe he or his employees spend that money to send their kids to school or to camp or soccer or dance lessons. Each one of them are taking that initial relationship and the resources of it and entering into more exchange relationships with numerous other people. But let's work our way back to that print shop. At the paper mill, the trees are made into paper. They're sorted, they're packaged, they're boxed, and they're sent to companies all over the country, if not the world, who sell paper to print shops. The print shop, who's already engaged in relationships of its own with customers, gets an order from the U of A for campus maps. They order the paper from a paper salesman who they already have a relationship with. The paper arrives and is checked in by an employee in charge of receiving. A graphic designer has spent time meticulously recreating every little detail about the U of A on the computer. Employee prints off a proof for the customer to check for accuracy and ultimately approve the work that's been done. Someone produces big aluminum plates that go into the printing press for printing. A pressman runs the press, printing all the maps, multiples on an oversized sheet of paper. He checks them for color and for accuracy. Once they're printed, they dry, and they take a big pallet of those paper prints over to a cutter, and the cutter operator cuts them down to size. Then the cut pieces of the paper need to be folded. This has 4 folds in it if you were to fold it up. There's someone in the bindery department of that print shop runs the folder machine and makes sure that each of those pieces is folded exactly how it needs to be, accurately and correctly. Another employee takes those folded pieces and boxes them up. A delivery driver takes them to the campus, and a U of A employee puts them out for you to grab one on your way to figure out your way around campus. At this point, I've lost track of how many people are potentially involved in the one campus map you picked up. It might seem like it's just you and that piece of paper, but you can see there's a much larger picture. The impact, the connection, and the relationships end up going all over town, and from there, people take that all over the country. And we see that work is not just toil or something that concerns just us. It's something that creates a huge organic mass of relationships between human beings. And this goes for whether you are working at a print shop, if you're working as a janitor, as a sandwich artist, a CEO, a nurse, a teacher, a graphic designer, a minister at a church, it doesn't matter. When you do the tasks of your job, you are exercising your own unique gifts, talents, and creativity. All of our work and creativity not only result in products, but it results in relationships. Those relationships are a collaboration, and the fruit of that collaboration is fellowship and community. Whether we think about it or not, we are tied into a relationship with all the people who make all the things we buy, sell, or consume. If I go into Safeway, the Safeway by my house, to buy Snickers, I'm probably only thinking about that Snickers and how Snickers satisfies. But as a consumer, I'm taking what I've gotten from my job and I'm engaging in a relationship with Safeway and all of their vendors and all of their employees. I am now tied in some way, shape, or form to the cashier who has sold me that delicious concoction of chocolate, peanuts, caramel, and nougat. Never before did I think about my purchasing of a candy bar as a collaboration with many people, much less a collaboration with one person. It was always between me and that delicious Snickers. But all the things we can consume and possess all start and stop with relationships with people. Yes, I laid out this beautiful thing about how work is the result of this great, beautiful, and mysterious interconnecting collaboration. It's a beautiful picture of how God works all things, how he connects us to so many people, the people he created, people we may never meet, we are connected to. Psalm 104 says, "How many are your works, Lord? In wisdom you made them all." And I feel that way about work. But what do we do with that knowledge that are created? What do we do with that knowledge of relationships that are created by our work and connecting with others through their work? We need to pay attention to the relationships that we are in. We need to allow people to offer their gifts to others so we can all grow and flourish. We need to seek for and fight for what is good and true and just in these relationships. We need to seek justice when and where we see harm and exploitation. I talked about that farmer and that forester earlier. They're working in a relationship together to make goods and make a living for themselves. They play a part in cutting down trees and turning them into paper. And we see how that can result in the median or the campus map. But the truth of the matter is deforestation is a problem as well. And we as Christians have a duty as the keepers of God's creation as well. When I worked at my last job at West Press, there was a ton of paper that went through that place. Mike, you can confirm, I don't even, like sometimes pallets, like what are they, 4x4, 4 feet, something like that, this high of just paper, like numerous ones coming in day after day. That's a lot of paper coming through that place. But we were always trying to sell our customers on recycled paper. There were synthetic stocks. We'd even talk to them about using eco-friendly inks. Some of the customers would go for that option, some wouldn't. But we were continually trying to fight for that and what was right and what at least know everybody had those options. Sure, West Press isn't a Christian-run company, and there might be plenty of other reasons for them to sell those options. But that doesn't mean that can't be my motivation and my intention in offering those products to my customers. If we can bring wisdom and virtue into all of our relationships, these work relationships, others will benefit from the same wisdom and truth. We don't have to be telling everyone all the time that God loves them and they need to love Jesus for us to be speaking truth into their lives and to love them and to honor that relationship. What we fight for, what we suggest, and how we handle ourselves goes a long way too. Think of how far those causes, those ideals could spread with such a large network of relationships we're creating with what we do. I just think that's really cool. Does a gardener make a plant grow, or do they cultivate the conditions for the plant to grow? Only God can do the deep down dirty work of changing and growing people. But we have a unique position to help God create the conditions for growth by speaking truth into our relationships and our collaborations. So what are a few ways we can do this tangibly well? How can we make the most of our relationships that we're building through the things we do? First, I think what we need to do is we need to be present in our collaborations. Distraction is a huge problem in our culture today. We have so many things fighting for our attention at any given moment. Our phones, our computers, Netflix, whatever it might be, we are used to being engaged by multiple things every waking hour of every day. It happens when we're hanging out and sitting on our couch at home, and it's no different when we're at work. My last job was always go, 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 go. There are always new jobs coming in, shifting priorities, phones to answer, customers to talk to. And that's good. Business wants that work and wants to stay busy. But I'd go walk to talk to either do something or talk to somebody. And by the time I'd get there, I'd forget what it was and why I was going there, because I would have had 3 conversations on my way about 3 other things. And I'd forget what was the task at hand, because now it feels like I have 3 new things that are now the task at hand. Now that I've started my new job, I work at home, and there is somehow simultaneously less distractions and more distractions when I'm working at home. I don't know exactly how that works, but that's how I feel. There's more and less somehow. So whether it's our phone or the busyness of the day that distracts us at any given moment, what holds true is that this distraction pulls us from being present in the moment, and that distraction hurts our relationships. If you're on a sales call or a conference call, engage in that process. Maybe don't be multitasking while you're on the call, and be tinkering with your fantasy football lineup. For some reason or another, those people have been put into your life that day and that moment, and we may miss an opportunity to share God's wisdom and truth. No matter how big or how small that wisdom or truth might be, we may miss that opportunity if we aren't paying attention to those we are being collaborative with. Earlier, I mentioned that Safeway by our house, right? We're kind of there a lot. Erica laughs because it's true. If nothing else, we're there 3 to 4 times a week to buy bananas. I got to have my banana for breakfast. And one of the advantages of living close and frequenting this store a lot is that I've kind of gotten to know and become buddies with one of the cashiers. His name's Greg. He's an awesome dude. We started talking one day because I'm inevitably wearing my Green Bay Packers workout clothes when I go in the evening to buy my bananas. And it turns out he's a huge football fan as well. So we started talking football. For a while, that's all our interactions would entail, talking football. But whenever I go, I make an effort now to go through his line. No matter how long or how short it is, I go into Greg's line if he's working. He's just a super nice guy, super friendly. And we talk about all sorts of things now. He gives me a hard time when it's inevitably only bananas that I'm checking out with. He recognizes Erica and Kaylin now. If they're not with me, he asks where they are or how they're doing. While I'm not working when I'm there, he is. And I've become a part of his work collaboration. Think of all the conversations I would have missed out on if I was on my phone when I was going through his line, or if I was just in a hurry to pay and get out of there. When we make the conscious decision to ignore the distractions, we open ourselves up to a greater and deeper collaborations with the people who matter to God and should matter to us too. Which brings me to my next point. about our work relationships and collaborations. We need to view others as gift bearers. It's easy to not think much of the work interactions that we have throughout a day. Whether it's the barista making your coffee, the customer service rep we've been on the phone with for 40 minutes, or a coworker that you're working on a special project in, or if you're in class, some people in a group project. We usually deal with those people like, okay, this is our one task, we gotta do this project, we get done with it, and then we move on. It's easy to focus at our task at hand and be ready to move on when it's done. But God can and will use others to teach us as much or more than he uses us to teach others in our relationships. Remember, God has created every human on this planet with special and unique talents, gifts, and abilities. Everyone is equipped with these gifts, and we have a great opportunity to use them for the greater of God's kingdom. But even if we are building these work relationships with someone who doesn't follow Jesus, we can view their gifts the way that God does. We can value their unique giftedness the way God does. We can encourage and help cultivate their gifts the way that God does. When I look at a group of people, it never ceases to amaze me how God equips so many different people with so many different roles to fill. When Erica comes home after a day and tells me about all the things that go into her caring for someone who's in the hospital, I'm amazed at how God has gifted her to be patient and understanding and helpful to those patients, because I don't think I could do it. When I talk to Aaron about all the things he has to deal with being a teacher, it amazes me that God has gifted him to thrive in that line of work, because I couldn't do it. I think Kara's with the kids this morning. When I heard she's studying chemical engineering, my head hurt. It's not how I'm created, and I can't do that. The list goes on and on and on. I could probably stand up here and give 100 examples of the way that God amazes me with that every day. That is the beauty of how God created the world, how he created us, and how every single person we build a work relationship is bringing their God-given gifts, and they deserve for that to be recognized and honored. And another thing I think we can remember going along with that is that we can fight for your fellow gift bearers. I talked a little earlier about fighting for what is right and good and just in these collaborations and work relationships that we build. I think it's important to remember as we do this, that even though we become connected with all these people, everyone is not necessarily benefiting from that connection that we're making. All over the world, people and their labor are being exploited for our benefit and for the benefit of others. Maybe the trees being chopped down for our paper is causing deforestation, and that's ruining the community's resources. Maybe those clothes we buy were sewn by someone who's overworked and underpaid. Maybe the farmer who's growing the cocoa beans for our Snickers isn't getting paid enough to feed his family. We cannot fix, as much as we want to, or much as we might want to, we cannot fix all these injustices. But we need to be aware of this and be intentional in making sure our collaborations are better for everyone involved, not only ourselves. They too are the gift bearers made in God's image, worthy of our respect. And even if we feel our work relationships don't directly connect to some of these conditions that might exist around the world, we can still choose to not become part of those collaborations, or at least be more intentional about the ones we do enter into. Listen, when it comes down to it, I know it's not always easy to be pumped about work. It's work, right? Even if we walk into our jobs every day with the best intentions, ready to help influence the relationships and collaborations we are creating, we're still surrounded by a broken world and by people who have been worn down by it, people who cannot see the bigger picture of work. I've worked places where within 5 minutes of walking into work, I felt beaten down and broken by all of that around me. And I've been faced with a choice to succumb to it or fight through it. My job at West Press was often hard on me physically, sometimes emotionally, and definitely mentally. I lost a lot of sleep working a lot of extra hours working on really big projects. And making this choice, whether to succumb to the pressure of work or fight through it, was not always an easy choice to make. And I didn't always make the right choice. But I'd like to say I'm pretty sure, mainly I hope that more times than not, I chose to fight through the world of work around me and value the relationships that I was creating, valuing the people above the tasks. Philippians says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. This is a verse that I tried to cling to when I was there because it was often not the easy thing to do. On some days, I made the right choice. And the only way I was able to do that was with God's help. That's the only way any of us are able to accomplish any of this. In a moment, you're going to hear a song by Need to Breathe called Difference Maker. God is the only way any of this is possible. Our relationship with Jesus is the only way that it's possible that we can create this network of relationships with other people. He is the difference in our attitude towards our work. He is the difference in the quality of our work. He is the difference in the vast network of relationships and collaborations we build through our work. I hope and pray that the people of West Press were better on the day that I left in June than when I arrived there 3 years earlier. I pray that God was able to use me to reach the people there, the other work relationships, the sales people and customers. And I hope he was able to reveal a little bit of himself to all those people I came in contact with. Now, I don't say this next thing to sound conceited or to brag, but one of my former coworkers once told me, had a conversation, they told me that they thought I was sincerely the nicest and happiest person that they had ever met. I was kind of blown away and taken aback by that comment. My gut reaction was to assure them that indeed I was not. Maybe I was compared to some of the other people that they had interacted working there. Maybe I was compared to some of the people they surround themselves with in life and at home. Maybe God was working through me and that relationship to teach that person something about themselves and about God. I don't know. I'll probably never know. And that's okay. God knows because he's the difference maker and he makes those relationships and those conversations possible. And he gives us the privilege of being difference makers too. In giving us work in these work relationships, God invites us to blend the creativity of our work with the labor of our bodies, and then to share the product of our work with one another. We must never see our work as simply as a way to gain. We must never see our labor as an impersonal force of efficiency. We must never see our work as a way to control or gain power. In all our work, in God's economy, work is always personal because work is always relational. Remember, no matter what you do for your work is a creative service. Let us cherish our work and the glorious gift that it is. The opportunity to join with literally millions of others in a divine project of vast creativity. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart. So, now what? Now we work well. Please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for gathering us here this morning. I thank you, though we may not always view it this way, and though the world does not view it this way, for the gift of work, that you made us to work, that you equip us with unique and special talents to work and work well for you. I ask that as we go about our week, that we may get rest on this long weekend, and that we may be able to re-energize ourselves so that as we create relationships with the people in our classes, the people we deal with at work, any people that we come in contact with, Lord, that we may be your instruments in helping spread your truth and your word and the things you value with those we come in contact with. I pray this all in your name. Amen.